And Minister, I'm glad you're in the House to listen to this. And I think what you have to try and get into your mind is what it would be like if tonight the people who are here had to sleep in a 20-year-old caravan or mobile home that's damp in this kind of cold weather. And that they have to do this on a council halting site in this day and age. And quite rightly, we give out about conditions for people looking for asylum and so on, and for students. But petty-mindedness has done a great disservice to travellers. Deputy Peter Burke, when he spoke in the Oireachtas Committee on Travellers, said, "The Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage has rolled out a 6-month preferential caravan loan scheme in 4 local authority areas. The scheme will allow participants to draw down up to €30,000. The Department hopes to roll out the scheme nationwide in 2022, following a review of the pilot." Minister, they did roll it out nationwide following a case taken to the Ombudsman by a woman in my constituency. But what did the department do? They made it nationwide, but they put a quota on the number of caravans or mobile homes. In the case in Galway, there were 24 applicants living in atrocious conditions, and the government had decided to allocate 4 caravans. At a time that a decision could be made last week, and I'm not against the decision, to spend hundreds of millions on student accommodation, could we not give each traveller family that needs a new caravan the money to get it? Minister, this is a shame on our nation, and I hope you go back to the department and put it right forthwith.
Choctaw, and again, I certainly know from many of the traveller friends I have in my hometown, certainly have been seen them in conditions that have been completely inadequate, and certainly seen great strides being made as well, and certainly there's no doubt the government is really committed to ensuring that the actions that you spoke about that they will be met by government in terms of resourcing, but it is critically important, particularly in the depths of winter, that families should not be living in substandard conditions, traveller families. It's really unacceptable. And the Housing Traveller Accommodation Act of 1998 provides that local authorities have a statutory responsibility for the assessment of and the accommodation needs of travellers and the preparation, adoption and implementation of multi-annual traveller accommodation programmes in their areas in order to meet the identified accommodation need. The role of the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage is to ensure that there are adequate structures and supports in place to assist the authorities in providing such accommodation, including a national framework of policy, legislation and funding. The Department originally introduced a pilot preferential caravan loan scheme in a selected number of local authorities over a 6-month period from July 2021 to December 2021, following consultation with local authorities and other stakeholders. The pilot scheme was introduced under Section 25 of the Traveller Accommodation Act of 1998 to support the provision of traveller-specific accommodation. The purpose of the scheme was to enable local authorities to provide loans to travellers to purchase their own caravans or mobile homes for use as primary residence on a halting site at a preferential rate. Loans may be advanced to an applicant assessed by the local authority as being in need of accommodation, either on the social housing waiting list or in need of an upgraded caravan or mobile as their principal residence, and not in a position to provide for same partially or fully from their own resources. In this initial pilot, a smaller number of loans were drawn down, and consequently the evidence base was insufficient to support an enduring scheme. Consequently, the Department expanded the pilot nationwide following approval from the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. A circular issued from the Department to all local authorities in July 2022 outlining details of the expanded pilot caravan loan scheme. As this is a pilot scheme, there is provision for up to 75 caravans or €3 million expenditure, whichever is the lesser, nationwide until the end of 2022. The uptake so far has been really positive, with strong demand across local authorities, and it's probably reflective of increasing family numbers and family sizes. I think that's probably part of it. At the end of this expanded pilot, a review will be carried out by the Department with input from local authorities and other stakeholders, and a report made to the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. Options for an enduring scheme will then be considered as a conclusion of this process. Meeting the needs of all traveller communities, as demonstrated by the pilot caravan loan scheme, continues to be a priority for local authorities and the Department, and indeed my colleagues Minister O'Brien and Minister Burke. I'll come back in a supplementary if that's okay.
Minister, in the words of Greta Thunberg, this is just blah, blah, blah. Let's get in our head now. I represent Galway West. In Galway City alone, there's a need so that people can go to bed and sleep in a comfortable caravan, right? There's a need for 24 caravans now. What are we getting? Process after process after process. And we're spending billions in this state. Billions accommodating people. Rightly so. And when it comes to travellers, we seem as a state to be so small-minded, so mean. Now, are you telling me that the state cannot afford a decent caravan to replace 20-year-old caravans for people who've had them for 20 years, looked after them? Can we not afford that, particularly when they pay back for the caravans in a weekly rent? Minister, I beg you just to go back to the Department and say, cut the petty-mindedness. One for anybody who needs it, and do it now on a needs basis, and not another winter of people ringing me up in tears because of the condition that they've been asked to live in. And the Ombudsman came out and saw one of these caravans, and this lady's not going to get one.
Okay.
Even though he recommended it.
I'll say with certainty, there's certainly not an issue with government in terms of resourcing. That resources are there. Minister Burke has been quite clear at the outset. Well, quite clear at the outset of his tenure to ensure that local authorities drew down all of their monies for travel accommodation. You may recall, historically, there had been an underspend in many local authorities. And I think that's I reiterate that point again, that all local authorities under the travel accommodation programme need to draw down their monies and spend their allocations. And you know, many travellers, particularly younger travellers, are moving into private accommodation, they're moving into different types of accommodation. So that's recognised as well. But specifically in relation to this, I will take back to the Minister and to the Department about this scheme being a pilot scheme and moving it into an enduring scheme. I think that, you know, as both deputies have pointed out, there seems to be a need, and there is a need from what you're saying to me, that there is a need for families to have an enduring scheme there that would support moving families into good quality mobile homes that they want to live in. And I've been in many of them. I've been really comfortable, and they're fantastic when families do get them, and it transforms the quality of life for children in particular, but for the whole family. So we certainly take that back to the Department, and if there is an issue there that which you're quite clearly saying to me there is, that local authorities need to be proactive about this, and if this scheme needs to move from a pilot into an enduring scheme, I think we should absolutely give consideration to it.
The Department allocated the 4 caravans to Galway, not the local authority.
Yeah, it's under the pilot scheme, I understand
that. Yeah,
that.
but it was the Department allocated the 4.
Yes.
So the problem is the Department, that's why we're here today. If it's the local authority, the Ombudsman would sort me.
I will relay that back to the Department.